Good morning, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be going over how the transmog market works. Now just stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so today we're going to be going over how the transmog market works and then what you can do to actually get started in it. Because I've had a couple of direct messages on the Discord about how to get into transmog and where should I start, what should I do, and why do I need this much amount of transmog items in order to actually get some sales. Why can't I just do an hour's farm like a standard farm? So that being the case, we're going to get into this right now, which is going to be starting off with the fundamentals. Now the fundamentals of the transmog market is pretty bog standard. I usually relate it towards a retail store. Now this is kind of the way I like to think about it, is that you're selling multiple different appearances. So much like a retail store where it actually sells a load of different types of clothes and all that jargon, you're selling a load of different clothes, and much like the retail store, you are selling appearances as well, which are the gear that you're actually selling to be transmogged. Now this is a certain thing that actually could be quite useful, and I kind of use this to get my head around transmog overall and how to I explain it to like some of my mates outside of the game in order how that market works. So I thought it may be helpful for you guys. Basically, say for instance you had a store and say that you only created one shirt. You've only got one colour of that shirt and you're just selling a plain black shirt. Okay, you're not going to get that many sales of that if you're just selling that one shirt. So if you now, let's say that you sold every single colour in the rainbow of different types of shirts, so one red, one orange, one yellow, you get the point. And that being the case, now your sales would start to increase a bit because not everyone is the same. They'll all want different types of variations. Like someone's favourite colour would be blue, so they'll go with a blue shirt. Also, someone else could prefer red. They'll be able to buy that, and someone else would buy the black shirt. Now, aside from all of that, the thing of note for transmog, however, is exactly the same principle. You're trying to sell multiple different appearances that cater to multiple different people. This is how transmog actually works, and this is the way I like to describe it when it comes towards selling it, because not everyone will want the same mog. Say I had the jackhammer, for instance. By the way, that comes from Alderman. Now, that being the case, not everyone will want the jackhammer transmog. Some people may want the Spellfire robe, which is a crafted item. Now, other than that, you could always say that someone else would want something along the lines of the Sulfuron hammer. So yeah, you would get hold of that. And the idea is you're trying to cater to that many amount of people in order to get regular sales that way. It's much more different than just farming one material, such as like gathering. You're going to farm like a load of whiptail and you're just going to sell it on the auction house. It doesn't really work like that. If you went off and you crafted like 100 items of green linen braces, you're going to be making next to no gold, and this is because you're only selling one appearance that caters to only one specific type of person who's looking for the green linen braces. You really don't need the other 100 of those braces. So realistically, you'll only need a few in order to sell them, in all honesty. And this is why different types of farms and different types of appearances are needed to gain regular sales when you're actually farming up transmog. This moves into our next part of this, and that is volume. How much volume do you need to get regular sales? Now, the baseline for most people is about 1,000. A lot of guide makers do actually suggest about 1,000 before you start seeing a nice return. But if you want to actually start making some serious gold with transmog, then it's more like about 2,000. That really is the bottom line. It does take quite a while to amass that amount of different types of transmog, and therefore it's going to take a lot of farming. If you're really not dead set in your ways in order to actually make your goal with transmog, because this is kind of a very full-on thing, because you're going to be farming quite a lot at the beginning in order to gain your regular sales later on. It's like putting up the upfront time in order to get the return later on. Now, a lot of people say or make the joke of Transmog doesn't sell. Now, that is because they don't usually either have farmed enough Transmog in order to gain the regular sales, or primarily they don't actually have enough of different appearances to gain those regular sales. So that is something right there. Now, the other thing of note that I would recommend is gain 2,000 items, but make sure that you vary your farms. Now, this, however, can be done through different types of raids, dungeons, open world farms, and crafting. Crafting professions are a very good one, but it requires a quite considerable amount of gold investment, especially when it comes towards your blacksmithing, because you'll be wanting to at least craft a lot of the high-end old school gear, i.e. the epic BOE weapons. Those ones sell really well and you'll be able to get a decent amount. Also, along with that, when it comes to blacksmithing to create your transmog items, I'd highly recommend actually crafting a lot of the BC stuff as well, because that does tend to sell rather well as well. Now, the thing of note for getting started, really, for someone who's just getting into transmog, like, I just want to get a bit of transmog and I don't really worry about all that. My voice changed for a second because I was going to do a little whiny voice, but you get the point. If you want to get started and you don't really want to just put up a massive gold investment into crafting transmog, then I'd highly recommend just do some dungeon farming, or at least at the bare minimum do some raid farming. But realistically, you're going to get more items for your time invested through dungeon farming. So that's why I've comprised the list, and it's quite a bit of a big one. But when it comes to the hours spent, you're going to be spending quite a lot of hours getting started. But by the time you've finished all of them, you should be able to see some regular sales coming in when it comes towards your transmog. Now, starting off, what you'll be wanting to do is at least go with the original and the barebone basic, everyone knows it, Zul'Farrak. Now, you want to do Zul'Farrak for about 3 hours. You'll get a load of green items. Also, you have a chance of getting the glorious leg plates from there. Yes, that actually does drop from there, so that's something you may want to know. A few bits of jade gear actually do drop from there as well, so as a little side note, but that price actually varies depending on your server. As for me on Argent Dawn EU, the price of a jade gear is really low at the moment, so realistically the glorious leg plates are well worth your time, but all of the rest of it is mainly for padding out your auction house. What you're going to be wanting to do is pad out your auction house at the beginning and then keep working on that. So 3 hours of Zul'Farrak, then you're going to want to make your way over to the ruins of Anchorage and do 3 hours of that. Once you've done that, then you're going to be wanting to go over to Botanica and make sure that you take a herbalist with you. You'll get some additional materials to sell, and do 3 hours of that, and Diamol and Mururdon. Once you've done all 5 of those, you've basically done 15 hours worth of transmog farming. Now, if you do want to do this, then invest the time. If you do not, then do gathering with those 15 hours. I'm not telling you that you're going to make a return straight away. What I am saying is you can set yourself up for long-term goals with transmog. That is the bottom line when it comes to transmog. It's a long game as opposed to materials, which is a short game where you just farm it up and you sell it. Transmog is a long game and it takes you a lot of time to set up, and I thought that investing a first 15 hours into doing 3 hours of those 5 farms, you'll be able to get a sizable amount of items, and you'll definitely have your 1,000 items to see some form of return coming in. After that, you want to do like other different types of transmog farms. You could go over to raid farming at that point and just build up to 2,000 auctions. What you really want to do is have a steady 2,000 auctions at all times on the auction house, and if more, then that's awesome. Try and vary the amount of times you actually farm a specific dungeon, because oversaturation is not good when it comes towards pretty much anything that you're trying to sell, because you're just going to drive the price down because you've got so many of them. So that is something you may want to bear in mind right there. After that, once you've gotten pretty sick of lovely standard transmog farming and you've hit your 2,000 auctions, then I would recommend start getting into crafting transmog. because then you'll have some gold to invest in that from your transmog farming prior, and that means you can increase the amount of items that you've got on the auction house with loads more different appearances that will get you regular sales. Other than that, guys, that is pretty much my rundown on how the transmog market works and how you should get into it by my opinion. Now, aside from that, guys, have an awesome rest of the day, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow.